Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to share my April reading wrap up with you. I didn't manage to read a lot because Animal Crossing has kind of taken over my life, and I don't know, just other things have definitely occupied my time. Plus, I guess I did read a fair bit. Yeah, I mean, now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's not nothing. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the books. So the first book that I read in the month of April is The Dilemma by B.A. Paris. This is one of my most anticipated reads of 2020, and I ended up not liking this. I gave it 2 stars. It just heavily relied on the not miscommunication, but the non-communication between a husband and a wife. It is, I forget the main character's name, Livy's 40th birthday party, and basically that party should have never happened because they had other things that they should have been talking to each other about, and if they were actually talking to each other, this birthday party would have never happened, which would have been great because it was super boring reading about. But if you're interested in my full kind of ranty thoughts, I did do a review, so I will link it up here for you. The next book that I read is Bunny by Mona Awad, and I also did not like this one. I rated this one 1 star, but I mean, I could see giving it 2 stars, but is there a big difference between a 1 star and a 2 star? Not really, in my opinion. This one, I guess why I rounded down to a 1 instead of giving it a 2 is because while the writing was very smart and interesting, and this was definitely an experience, I just didn't overall enjoy the story. I don't think it was clear enough what was happening, and I think it was meant to be that way, but this is just not my type of story. I kind of want to know a little bit more about what's happening and understand the dynamics, and the whole ending I wasn't really a fan of, but this is about a girl that goes to college. She's in this writing school, and she meets, she knows about this group of girls that all call each other Bunny, and they kind of invite them into their group, their mix, and things kind of take off from there. Yeah, it was interesting, but also mentioning this, I definitely want to say that from now on, in my wrap-ups or when I do reviews, I'm going to let you know to check the comments, not the comments. I'm going to say check the description box for all content warnings and trigger warnings, because both of these kind of have content warnings, trigger warnings to go into, maybe you need to know something about these books. Plus, I did that entire video about content warnings and trigger warnings, and I got a lot of great feedback from you guys about it. Some of you said that it could be spoilery to know that, and I understand where you're coming from, but I still think it's important to share with readers, and I do 100%, 1000% agree with you that it is up to the individual reader itself to do their own research. But I don't want to sit here and recommend a book like Bunny, and then you hate things about animals, and then I don't tell you about that, and you picked up this book because of me, and then you had no idea. So I think that the culture kind of is now that there are still a lot of readers out there that won't do their research, and they'll add things to their wish list without really looking into it. Right here, I do that all the time. And I haven't ever read a book, well, that's not true. I can remember one book that I was like, I could have skipped that, and I would have, it still was a bad book, but yeah. So I think there are times that people need to know stuff going in, but in order to kind of better preserve the people that do not want to be spoiled or whatever, I am going to put trigger warnings and content warnings for all of these books down in the description box, and please, please, please do additional research, but this is the stuff that I found while I was reading it, or I found online, and so forth. Sorry for the mid wrap-up tangent, but I wanted to let you guys know that. So in my reviews and in my wrap-ups, in the description box, I will have trigger warnings, content warnings for you guys. Okay, moving on. I was so happy to have read The Girl Aquarium by Jen Campbell this month. I rated this collection 3 out of 5 stars. I think it was 3 parts. Yes, it was told in 3 parts, and I definitely liked the first part the best. The first part was so great. Like, I just loved it so much. And I like how they're all titled. This was like probably one of my favorites, or it was one of the most interesting, I'll say. But yeah, I loved it. It was just so well put together, and it was so different. And knowing that Jen is from the UK, and like watching her videos and knowing like the accent that she talks in, and then like she's writing in a completely different accent in this collection sometimes, and it's just crazy to me. Like, I was like, what is happening? Yeah, I definitely want to pick up other books by her. I'm really interested in getting her, like, there's like a magical dragon series, children's book series. I want to get that for my classroom. And then I know she's published a couple of other books as well. I don't know if it talks about it in here. Let's see if it does. Yeah, but she has several books. Oh, here we go. The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night. That's like a fiction book. And then the children's book, Franklin's Flying Bookshop and Franklin and Luna Go to the Moon. And then she has like another poetry thing, The Hungry Ghost Festival. That sounds really cool. And then nonfiction, Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops. More Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops in the Bookshop book. So those I think are like more well known by her. But yeah, I definitely want to pick up more from her in the future. The next book that I read is You Are Not Alone by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This was another highly anticipated read for me this year, and it released in February, and I rated this story 3 out of 5 stars. I think the beginning part was very interesting. It's hard to tell you what this book is about. Like, it literally is, because I have read the entire book and I still don't feel like I know. But you have these 2 sisters that have like a group of other women that they have formed like a friend, it's like a friendship circle. And then you have this other girl, Amanda, I think is her name, that saw a girl jump in front of a subway. And then from there, she was kind of more interested to know, like, why did she do this? And then that girl was friends with these other women. It's so hard to explain. If you're really interested, just look it up on Goodreads, you guys. But I rated this story 3 out of 5 stars because while I do think it had some things that I did not see coming, and it did have me very interested in the beginning, I think that just like overall, it just wasn't, I don't know, like it wasn't strong enough. But I redeemed myself because I wasn't reading like stuff that I was really falling in love with, but then I picked up the guest list, which was not on my TBR, but I ended up getting this for my April book of the month, and I am so glad I did because this was so good. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. I've talked about this book a lot, but it follows a couple that are getting married on this island in Ireland, and they're inviting a whole bunch of guests, and there's secrets, and it's told in like 6 different points of view, like the bridesmaid and the bride and the wedding planner and the +1 and the, you know, all of this, the best man, and it's very interesting. I like how it's told. The beginning is a little slow, if we're being honest, but not slow like where you're bored. It's just there's not a lot of action. Well, there's really not a lot of action in this, but there's not a lot of intrigue at the very, very beginning because you're just getting to know there's 6. So you're getting to know 6 points of view and like who they are and why they're important to the story. But then after that, like it just, oh, I just loved it so much. You feel like you're there, the environment, and you just know that something's gonna happen. But yeah, there's been an accident and possibly someone got murdered, and you're trying to find out what's going on. What are all these secrets? Who done it? And it's just like one of those classic superb whodunits that if you like the mystery, thriller, whodunit, detective type things. Like, I think you will really like this. If you liked the CBS show, Harper's Island, this is the book for you. It totally makes me want to rewatch that show. But yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely recommend. So good. And I picked up and read Dry by Neil and Jared Schusterman, which I read for the Booktubers and Brews live show, which I had with Jacqueline on her channel just this past Tuesday. That was a lot of fun. If you happen to have missed it, or you weren't able to tune in because you didn't read the book, I completely understand. But once you do, I will have the video linked up above for you, so you can go back and watch all of her spoilery thoughts. I had a lot of thoughts about this book because I really enjoyed it, and I think it packed a lot in, and I think that it just did a really good balance of kind of focusing on the core story, but kind of like zooming out and seeing what's happening outside of the core story. And the core story follows, like, basically there is no more water in Southern California. The tap is out, and you're going through a very length of time without water, and what that means to this group of teenagers, and trying to find their parents, and, you know, trying to find water and so forth. But yeah, definitely, again, check out trigger warnings down in the description box. Then I picked up on my Kindle, I got approved for a NetGalley ARC copy of, I wrote down the title, Love Poems for Anxious People by John Kenny. And I've never heard of this poet before, but I'm really super glad that I read this. I definitely would like to see a physical copy of the book. If it has like I know it has a cover and stuff, but I will insert the actual cover. But if you are an anxious person, it's a hilarious read. It didn't make me feel like more anxious. It just felt like understood. But I did rate it 3 stars because I did feel like, and I don't know if it's the formatting, because like I said, I had the e-copy of it, and sometimes that the formatting, and you don't know if you're actually like reading the story or if you're reading a poem, and they didn't have like, it just kind of flowed, like there wasn't like a break between the different poems like in Jen Campbell's book. I really like when modern poetry, it's like a poem per page or whatever, but it's clearly defined, like this is one poem, now you've started another one. And in this one, I didn't get that. And there were some times that I was like, is this a poem, or is he just telling me like an anecdotal thing? And I felt like it is more anecdotal than I thought it was poetry. And I guess that there were things bolded, but like this is something that's bolded. To the man on his phone at 7-Eleven who bumped into me and spilled iced coffee on my pants and said whoops and then walked away. So let me read this to you. It says, you seem nervous, blinking a lot, shoulders at your ears. In a world that too often lacks empathy, I empathized with you, new friend. Given to your phone as if it were the face of God. Turns out it was TikTok. Also, don't worry about me. I'm fine. Who needs an apology or a napkin for that matter when simply walking away still staring at your phone will suffice? And no, I don't really hope you get hit by a bus or fall down an elevator shaft. That was just a reaction. Dropped it and I have it. Whoops, indeed. So funny. And that is one good thing about it. Like, it didn't feel like poetry to me. It did feel very stream of conscious, but it was hilarious and I just felt so seen. Teacher's note home about the upcoming 2nd grade field trip. We are so excited about the upcoming field trip. A few gentle reminders. The bus will leave promptly at 8:20 a.m. Children arriving later than 8:20 a.m. will not be allowed on the bus. It is imperative that no one brings anything that has nuts. I'm not kidding. Don't do it. I swear to God. This includes anything with the word nuts, even if it is a child stuffy named Peanut. That stuffy has been confiscated. Also eggs or any egg product or anything made with eggs or egg-shaped toys. No dairy, nothing with sugar or sugar substitutes, no store-bought fruit. There will be no plastic on the bus. This includes plastic bags, plastic water bottles, plastic toys. There will be no speaking on the bus. Children who speak on the bus will be removed from the bus and left by the side of the road. The trip to the museum is approximately 20 minutes in length. Due to liability, at no point will the children be allowed in the museum. They can look at the museum from a distance of no closer than 100 feet. No photos or drawings. Any child who sings will be punished. Thank you. We are so excited. I just loved it so much as a teacher. That was like literally my favorite one. Next up, I read The Sun Down Motel by Simone St. James. This was another anticipated release. This one came out in January, and yeah, I didn't really love this one either. I gave it 3 stars. I liked the vibe, the story, the ominous like motel, I guess I should say. But it's basically about Viv and Carly. Viv's chapters take place in like 1982 and Carly's chapters take place in 2017. So it is like a dual timeline. And Viv is Carly's aunt, and she used to work as a night clerk at the Sun Down Motel, and she disappeared. And no one ever found a body or anything. And Viv, this was before Viv's time, and now she is going to this place and trying to find out what happened to her aunt. But the chapters felt so similar, and it was so hard keeping track of like who's who and who goes with that person and stuff like that, because they felt very similar. Like, other than at the very, let me show you how the chapter was written. Okay, like right here, it will say like Fell, New York, and then November 2017 in Carly. But that's the only indication that you know that that's Carly's chapter. And I would just get kind of confused, especially in the beginning, of like who was who, because they're interested in the same things. They're about the same age when this was taking place, like in their respective chapters. They both have like a woman helping them and a guy helping them, and they both end up working at the Sun Down Motel as a night clerk. And yeah, it felt so similar. But I will say that I was pleasantly surprised and enjoyed the ending of this. If you're new to thrillers, if you're looking for something new that just came out this year and you're new to thrillers, I would say check this one out. It is a little bit of a slower read because it's not like heart pumping and stuff like that, but I enjoyed the experience overall. I picked up Her Every Fear by Peter Swanson, and I rated this 3 stars. I was really disappointed by this because I've come to know Peter Swanson as being that person that's like, you think what is happening is predictable and you're like, oh, it's totally going to be that. But it may be that, but like there's a twist on top of it. And this did not do that how I needed it to. I guess there were like certain little things, but like once, I don't even know like exactly when it happened. I did talk about this on the Read with Friends live show last week. It's kind of, okay, so you have 2 cousins. One lives in London, one lives in Boston. For a period of 6 months, they plan to change apartments. I think one goes for a job and one's just trying to like get away from something that happened to her. And it is tragic. Like Peter Swanson really does kind of like go there with like kind of gruesome details and stuff like that. So again, check the description box. But I just found it overall like pretty lacking. If you're new to thrillers though, this might be another one that you could enjoy. So if you're looking for a thriller and you're new to thrillers, maybe check out something like this. Before I talk about the last book that I read this month, I wanted to segue into my book buying ban / book haul discussion. In February, I went on a book buying ban and I bought no books in March, and it's only April now. It feels like it's been forever since I've bought books, just because of like being at home all the time and, you know, have more time to read, but not necessarily being interested in stuff on my bookshelves. But that's the point of a book buying ban for me. It was to kind of like go on my bookshelves and read the books I have or get rid of them so I can get new books. But I wanted to stop talking about my wrap up because I only have one more book, but it's one of the books that I got this month. I got I got 5 books this month. So the first 2 books that I got were my book of the month books. I picked up the guest list and then I added on Beach Read because I always usually get their thriller, but I definitely wanted to read this too because it was on my most anticipated list. So yeah, so I picked up both of these from book of the month. And then my neighbor actually left this on my porch, my front porch, and said that she recommended this. I know nothing about it. It's called The Book Charmer by Karen Hawkins. I adore this cover though. But yeah, she works as a book buyer seller and she also reads a lot. And she left this on my porch because she knows like we're all quarantined, we're in our house, like, you know. So it says, Sarah Dove is no ordinary bookworm. To her, books have always been more than just objects. They live, they breathe, and sometimes they even speak. When Sarah grows up to become the librarian in her quaint southern town of Dove Pond, North Carolina, her gift helps place every book in the hands of the perfect reader. Recently, however, the books have been whispering about something out of the ordinary, the arrival of a displaced city girl named Grace Wheeler. So yeah, so I'm gonna read this and I'll report back to you guys. It sounds like very good. Like it sounds like something I would enjoy, especially like a book about books. Okay. And the last 2 books that I got, we went to Target. My husband and I, we went to Target. We had to pick up like his medicine and like a couple of other essentials. We went by the book section and I was holding my hands by my side, not touching, not looking, but he offered to buy me a couple of books. So I picked these 2 up. The first one that I picked up is The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. This is one that I saw on recommendation on Jacqueline's channel when she said that like if you liked Behind Closed Doors, you may like this one. And yeah, I was like, I do. So I saw it, I was like, ooh, this is one I'm really interested in. So he bought me this. And then of course I wanted to get this cute little edition of Mice and Men because it's like one of those classics that I've never read, super short, and it's supposed to be like a thriller. So yeah, I was really interested in that. And I do just love this little like pocket edition. So I'm gonna look for more like pocket editions of these like short little classics like this. But yeah, cover design and illustration. Yeah, I know it's like a Pinkham Random House, but I don't know like what edition this is exactly. If you know, leave it down in the comment section, but for other people to find out. But yeah, I like having this little edition and I think it's so pretty. Anyway, so now to jump back into the last book that I read in April, I read Of Mice and Men. It is very short. It was 107 pages, but it feels like a 300-page book way back in the day. So there's a lot of like racial words that we don't say anymore, but are in a lot of literature like this. So check the description box for triggers. This took me forever to read, even though it was 107 pages, partly because I was distracted with other things, but partly because of it being a classic and the way it was written and the description. A few miles south of Soledad, this Seneless River drops in close to the hillside bank and runs deep and green. The water is warm too, for it has slipped sparkling over the yellow sands in the sunlight before reaching the narrow pool. On one side of the river, the Golden Foot Hill slopes curve up to the strong and rocky Gabilan Mountains, but on the valley side, the water is lined with trees. Willows fresh and green with every spring, carrying in their lower leaf junctures the debris of the winter's flooding, and sycamores with molted white, recumbent limbs and branches arc over the pool. On the sandy bank, under the trees, the leaves lie deep and so crisp that a lizard makes a great skittering if he runs among them. Rabbits come out of the brush to sit on the sand in the evening, and the damp flats are covered in the night tracks of coons and the spread pads of dogs from the ranches, and with the split wedge tracks of deer that come to drink in the dark. There is a path through the willows and among the sycamores, a path beaten hard by boys coming down. Like, you get it. It's just like, does he want me to imagine all this? Because there's so much to imagine that I just don't have time. So not only was like the environment explained a lot, but once the 2 men get, so it talks about George and Lenny. I think that's who it was. Yeah, Lenny. And so George and Lenny are these traveling men that go to different farms to kind of like work the land and stuff like that. So they're on their way to go to this, they hustle work when they can. So they go to this place, this job on a ranch, and they're working there. But when they're working there, there's this like one part where they go into this barn where this person's like, it's their bedroom. And they're literally describing every single thing that hangs on the wall. And I was like, I don't care what's hanging on the freaking wall. I really don't. But like, you're talking about stuff that like we don't even use anymore. Like, why couldn't it have been in a push brooms leaned against the wall? But no, it's telling like all these technical farming, you know, barn stuff. And I'm like, does that really truly matter to the story? No, it doesn't. Again, like I said, check the description box for triggers for this book. But overall, like, despite the racial slurs and despite the over description, I was pretty bored for, I'm gonna say like maybe half. Because I was just like, what is the point of this? Like, what's gonna happen? But like the last quarter to half was really good. And I just sat, like my husband was playing Switch, and I just sat and I just like read it, and it was so good. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. And I definitely think if you're looking for like a short classic book and the trigger content warnings do not bother you, to pick it up. But yeah, so those are the books that I read in April. I had a very like weird reading month. I'm hoping that May is much better. I did talk about in my May TBR that I'm having difficulty nailing down what I want to read, what I am enjoying, and so forth. So I think that we just all have to give each other a little grace during this time, each other and yourself. And that's what I'm really trying to do. I'm not trying to feel guilty for not reading or not wanting to read or not make videos or not post videos. So yeah, so this is going up late today. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy and happy, and that you're having a lovely day or night, because I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.